We're live. All right.
Yay!
Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining me for another week of This Week in the Clinic. We took a little break over the holidays. Did you have a nice holiday?
I had a great holiday.
Great.
Montreal to Linden, so it was a big one.
Awesome. So, first, This Week in the Clinic this year, I'm super excited to have Julie. We're going to get into some really awesome stuff. I'll tell you a little bit of our itinerary, and then we're going to introduce my guest over here. We're going to talk a little bit, it's all about detoxification today, so we're going to talk about the science behind detoxification. I actually got right into my inbox yesterday why detoxification diets are myths.
Oh yeah, I've
Right?
heard this one.
How many times have you heard
That's what I loved, page 21. I love that you pulled that out, because that's what really fired me up to write this,
Yeah.
is to stop this silly conversation happening on the internet that detoxification is a myth.
Silliness, I
That
think.
if you have a liver, you can do it all by yourself.
Silliness. So we're going to talk about why that's silly.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go into how the body actually detoxifies and how it gets exposed to toxins. We're going to look at some cautions and tips when doing a cleanse, because I know there's a lot of wrong ways to do it. There's a lot of right ways to do it. We're going to talk about a little bit about coffee. And
Thumbs up.
Yeah. And what to do to stay healthy, like to stay clean and healthy in, unfortunately, a toxic environment. It's a reality. It's a clear and present issue, and how do we thrive in this environment where we've introduced over 85,000 chemicals. So, for those of you who are already joining us, you're welcome to give us a thumbs up if you like what we're saying. Also, you can share it if you want to share this with your people, and we would greatly appreciate that too. And we'll get right into it. Also, we're following along here on Facebook, so if you have any questions as we are going along here, feel free to post up a comment, and we'll try to address it. So first, I want to introduce Julie Daniluk, my good friend, my colleague, trailblazer in the nutrition world. When there was only a few nutritionists doing this, it was like Julie and maybe one other person. Now there's like thousands.
Yeah, it's been really fun.
Yeah.
The journey. Yeah.
So three-time author.
Yes.
Right. We're going to talk about the third book today, of course. Lawbreaker.
Lawbreaker. Yeah.
So in 1999, I did a little research. You got arrested.
Yes.
In Loblaws,
Yes.
and maybe we'll talk about that.
And I was banned forever.
Banned forever.
Which I'm okay with.
Yeah, well, there's lots of other places to get good food.
Exactly.
So, advocate for non-GMO, and we go to our protests here in Toronto every year together.
Yes.
Just nutritionist extraordinaire, TV personality, she's led the way for a lot of us. So, let's get right into it.
I'd love that.
Thanks for coming here.
Well, thank you for really being one of the top nutritionists in all of Canada, and I really think you are brilliant and such a contribution. So I'm stoked that you have me on as one of the very first media appearances. So thank you.
Totally. Media appearance, I love that.
And I love that this lasts forever. Facebook Live.
Yeah.
It's so great.
Totally. So we're going to talk about Hot Detox today. This is her new book. I highly recommend it. We're actually not going to get too much into the recipes.
Understandable.
Because we're going to talk about the why today. And when we understand the why, the how takes care of itself, and the recipes, and there's so many good ones in here. That's the how, and that's what you can all dive into. But let's talk a little bit about the why today.
I'd love that.
And why don't you just give me like a little overview of why you went into detoxification as your next step?
Well, similar to you, I was absolutely angry at all of these reports that detoxification was a myth, that detox diets were a myth, that really the only need for detoxification is if you would poison yourself with alcohol or PCBs, in which case, yes, you would need to intervene and help the body. But apart from that, there's really no need to do it. And to me, I just seemed like that was such a foreign concept. And I said, we need to delve into the science.
Right.
So I ended up really putting my head down, looking at the science for over a year, trying to pull every study. And what I find really interesting is that there's no money in studying detox diets. There's just no money in it. So what we have is, of course, very small sample sizes, typical sizes for detox diet study groups will be like 8 to 14 people, but we do see significant shifts in people's ability to have their vitality back. We see pain decreasing, we see memory scores increase. We're seeing very significant changes that are validated. And I would love to get into the why with you and really say that, gosh, because of these 85,000 chemicals, we need to give our body the upper hand. You know, back in the day, if we were talking the 1700s, sure, your liver had what it took to get rid of the naturally occurring toxins or the toxins that your body made through metabolism. But your body has no idea how to cope with the onslaught of today's world. Just makeup. Like I was thinking as I put my makeup on today, I better mention to people, I only use natural makeup when I'm doing it on my day-to-day. Like I love Sante and Zora and the Zizu and all of these organic brands that are just minerals compressed with some really good quality oils. Like that's what we should be using, because ladies tox themselves out way more than the average guy might get their shampoo and the other toxins, but they're not getting that constant pancake. The average woman eats 3 pounds of lipstick in her lifetime, and it's often full of lead. Like, who would have thunk, right?
I saw that on your blog, and I was just astounded by that stat. And you also mentioned a book. There's lead in your lipstick.
I love Jillian.
And I sometimes tell people, like my clients, about that, and I say, you know, there's a book. It's called There's Lead in Your Lipstick. You really do not need to read the book. Read the title and you're done, right? Like it says it all.
You are just scared off of using artificial junk because you're using cadmium. And what's interesting, I have a personal story about cadmium. My mother had cadmium poisoning because she was a painter and a potter and ended up killing off all the microbes in her gut. So it turns out if you have excessive levels of cadmium, you can't grow good probiotics in your gut lining. So after we had her blood levels checked for heavy metals, and had a microbiome check, which I highly recommend doing, that's when she was inspired to truly embrace detoxification. And once we got her glutathione pathway up and working, which we'll get to, it truly helped her, and now her colitis has really downregulated. We have it really under control, really in remission most of the time, which is awesome.
Great, that's amazing. So what's the connection? So your first book was anti-inflammatory. It was all about you know, eating to bring down inflammation.
And that came because I got so sick in Thailand. This book happened because I wanted to take my vitality to the next level, and I knew that if we explore detoxification, this is Olympic performance material. If you can really get your body working at an optimum, that's when you feel brilliant. You know, you really have everything you need to have that Olympic life, and also to maintain the energy of our 20s. So many people are exhausted and really irritable or sad, and they don't know why. Let's get to cleansing.
I love that, and you just said so much, like I want to touch on, right? So, and you said that like first you dealt with inflammation and then detoxification to become the Olympic athlete. And I love that because when I'm, again, working with people, it's about, you got to figure out actually what order to do things. You can't like do things all at once, and sometimes doing the right things in the wrong order is not a good idea, and detoxification might be one of those examples. So I would say, I would agree, and I love how this is the path you've taken, that getting someone on an anti-inflammatory diet and lifestyle is a great foundation, is a great step one. And detoxification is like, okay, now we're going to take it to the next level.
Because don't you find by the time people see you, Josh, because you see some of the toughest cases, that they're so fragile that you need to stabilize them first before you introduce things that would really power up liver dumping toxins. Do you often stabilize and strengthen people with, say, the autoimmune protocol first and then introduce a lot of detox?
Yeah, for sure we do. And, you know, sometimes if someone has a heavy metal burden, we need to make sure that gut is healed and the brain barrier is healed too before we start liberating those things out. Or we can make things worse. So absolutely. There's definitely an order to these things here.
Isn't it interesting that everyone knows now about leaky gut, but there's very little conversation about leaky brain and how the brain barrier can be far too pliable, and we can end up with this reaction of having far exaggerated detoxification, like what often is called a healing crisis. We want to avoid healing crisis, and that's why with the hot detox, I start people really moderate, and then I say, here's a few hints at what to do, but I'm not going to give you any specific protocol around, say, N-acetylcysteine.
Right.
That's when I want you to go see Josh. I want you to go see a naturopathic doctor, because just throwing out those major detox enhancers, I think needs to be done with the guidance of a health practitioner.
For sure, yeah. And I mean, like, you can't go wrong with diet.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you can't go wrong with food. You know, we have to differentiate between, you know, when we say you might want to hold off on detox, it's holding off on, like, the stronger stuff, really going full on.
The really herbal protocols and some serious anti-parasitic remedies and things like that, yeah.
Okay, so we're just, I feel like we could talk for hours.
Yes.
So I gotta, like, bring us back to the itinerary.
Maybe we could have part 2 and part 3.
Yeah.
I love talking to you, so.
I would totally be up for that.
Okay.
So let's talk a little bit about the science first, the why.
Yes.
I want to just establish that.
Sure.
So there's 3 studies that you talked about in your book.
Yes.
Page 21 specifically, for those of you who want to jump right to it. The first one was published in Alternative Therapies in Health and Medicine. It was a 10-week trial. They had one group that was on the detox diet and one group that was on low-calorie hypoallergenic diet, which I found kind of interesting. And the detox group had fewer symptoms.
Yes, and the detox group, so this was 106 people enrolled in this study, and I believe about 82 followed through with it, because that's the thing, there's a lot of drop off with these. And out of those 82 people, there was, what they found is a smoothing out of the liver detox pathways, which is so important. So as we slow down phase 1 and speed up phase 2, we have better clearance of toxins. Because as you know, if we speed up phase 1 too quickly and we can't get phase 2 working correctly, there's a log jam of toxins that accumulate in the liver, which is very toxic. So I think that's why they saw really good results, is that they balanced phase 1 to phase 2 pathways. And by getting all those different nutrients, that's what's so critical, is having the phytonutrition you need to smooth out phase 2. It's extraordinary what your liver needs. And that's why I think it's laughable when people say, oh, you don't need a detox diet, or you don't need I hate the word diet, of course, because it's so poisoned, unfortunately. Diet simply means what you're eating. But in this regard, when you follow a detox menu that supplies the phytonutrients, then we can get those 6 active pathways up and running again. Because if you're missing sulfur, then the sulfation pathway may be blunted. Or if you're missing enough B vitamins, are we going to get our methylation pathway working correctly? Do we have enough folic acid? So that's why this was so effective, is by bumping up all those critical nutrients, we saw phase 2 be able to catch up to phase 1 and smooth out that conveyor belt of toxins. And then what I found amazing about the second study was how it was actually on very, very sick firefighters. Because, you know, let's just bless the firefighters. It's the most noble profession of all. You're willing to run into a burning building to save people. And 14 firefighters were exposed to extremely heavy PCBs, which can significantly cause not just physical effects like cancer, but also cause neurological problems where memory loss, irritability, depression was setting in. And so what shocked me with this study, it was only 3 weeks long. And I thought, wow, they only had them on a cleanse for 3 weeks? I would have kept them on it for 3 months. I mean, these guys were exposed to something so heavy. But after only 3 weeks, they saw significant improvement in their memory scores. They were doing a whole bunch of different tests where they had to put blocks in the right place. They had to remember names. They had to do coordination tests. So I really liked the rigor of all the different testing to show how neurological side effects can affect movement and stuff. And just how wonderful that these firefighters were able to get their memory back, because what a massive sacrifice. We really are the memories we collect. So the fact that these firefighters were improved in just 3 weeks. And I just want to give a shout out to the hot detox, because a big part of their cleansing protocol was hot saunas. So we must remember that PCBs leave the body so much easier through sweat. And that's why I have a hot yoga plan within this. The hot yoga, yoga flow is very gentle, but warming the body core to the point where you're sweating is extremely important to get heavy metals and to get that PCBs and other really difficult chemicals out through our skin versus through our stool and our urine.
For sure. And I believe there was also the firefighters that were at 9/11. There were some pretty intense protocols I've read about that have been done with some of those guys afterwards, where they were doing very similar protocol. Exercise to get the blood flowing, rebounding, saunas for like up to 2 hours, you know, up to 2 times a day at certain points.
Incredible.
Of course, this is under medical supervision, but they measure these chemicals and see tons of these chemicals coming out of the body.
I think we need to switch PDFs because I want that PDF. That sounds so cool. This is what geeks do in our spare time is trade studies. So
but
that's
I
really
want to
cool.
just jump back for a moment because we're talking about like the worst of the worst. But you said before Olympic athlete, and I always think about that, how like we want to just become the Olympic athletes of our lives. And how we don't need to wait till we're running into fires, getting exposed to PCBs to do this stuff, because everyone's being exposed at some level. And we can do this as part of our regular maintenance program, like you described.
Absolutely. And I truly feel that the hot detox also touches on how to keep your digestion at that Olympic level, because people say as we age, our digestion fails. Does it? Because since I've been starting on your wonderful bitters and really focusing on warming, soothing foods that are easy to digest and getting off of heavy carbohydrate, I have my digestion is better now than it was in my early 20s. So I feel that we can get better as we age. We can age incredibly gracefully instead of fighting it. So I just want to give people hope that you can have everything get better.
For sure.
And I love the third study. I love the fact that you wanted me to pull up these studies and delve into them. The third study was for people with fibromyalgia, which is a really tough group. Fibromyalgia is that terrible muscle pain that seems to come out of nowhere and be really consistent and hard to treat. And what was great is after a detox protocol, this small group of 8 noticed significant downregulation of their pain response. So less achiness, less stiffness. And how important is that? That is key. And what a beautiful tie-in to the anti-inflammatory menu. The fact that really the anti-inflammatory menu provides those phytonutrients that are so critical. And I know you were just on InstaStory yesterday sharing how those antioxidants are a critical piece for us to run our detox pathway effectively.
For sure. For sure. Love it. And it's just also a testament when they go on these diets and their symptoms improve, that those things, those chemicals, were probably worsening the condition in the first place, and that they need to kind of reevaluate and look at their whole life and their whole environment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's the connection between anti-inflammatory and detoxification?
Well, what's interesting is so many nutrients that reduce our inflammatory cytokines and the inflammatory processes in our own body, like if we look at CRP as an example, I find it fascinating that those nutrients are also needed to assist phase 2 liver detoxification. So whether it be vitamin C or the sulfur compounds within brassica family plants or vitamin B, or omega-3. How interesting that we know omega-3 significantly reduces inflammation, but it's also critical for running your liver detox. So I just love to see that. I love to see the co-relationship, that what's good for one part of the body is good for the rest of the body. There's a beautiful cascade that happens. Yeah, so there's the link, and also just having those 7 to 10 bright colored veggies a day. And what I love is that vitamin A is often expressed in the orange foods as beta carotene. The vitamin B is often in green foods. All that foliage is the folate, of course. Vitamin C is often found in brightly colored red foods. If you think the berries and peppers, if you can handle peppers, those are extremely high in vitamin C.
Wait, orange juice? Doesn't orange juice?
Yeah, I just tried to talk about orange juice yesterday. I mean, yes, we need vitamin C, and we need also the bioflavonoids within citrus.
Yeah.
But conventional oranges are just heavily sprayed, so I really want people to focus on organic when possible, and maybe splash out and have some different types of citrus.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's some kumquats comes to mind. Organic kumquats from the Big Carrot is one of my all-time favorite treats, because you can eat the skin, and that provides all of the bioflavonoids that are the transport for the vitamin C. So,
Totally.
What
Have you heard of the book Squeeze?
No, I haven't.
I mean, I'm not trying to I love compete here, but it's all about the orange juice industry.
Oh wow.
Alyssa Hamilton.
And just how these oranges are hitting the ground and they're still picking up and juicing them even when they're moldy, and yeah. So
what about pomegranates?
Oh, I love pomegranates.
I see some props. Julie came in with like a duffel bag of things to share with us.
Good. Well, pomegranates, I wanted to jump into the realm of traditional Chinese medicine. I know we can't get into it a lot today, but just know that my book, The Hot Detox, is really pulling from the traditional Chinese medicine perspective on cleansing, which is incredibly important that we embrace. Healing our spleen qi, the fact that the spleen is what's responsible for digestion. And when we hit it with freezing cold produce, consistently a lot of raw food, we create more dampness in the body, which is very hard for our body to work at its optimum. So I just wanted us to embrace more of the warming foods. And what I love about pomegranate is that the seeds are incredibly well known to be an anti-parasite remedy in traditional Chinese medicine, combined with pumpkin seeds. And so I have a great recipe in the book called pomegranate paleo pudding, which really embraces both. It has tons of pomegranate seeds combined with pumpkin seeds and even hemp hearts, which I'll grab. One of my favorite detoxification tools because of its nutrients. I mean, look at that. With folate, with magnesium, with zinc. This is a powerhouse of detoxification and provides hypoallergenic source of amino acids for those vegans. Because my book actually has both a vegan plan and an omnivore plan, so that people can all eat off one menu, because I know how hard that is at one table to satisfy everybody.
For sure, and I love that you brought up vegan versus omnivore. I'm going to get to that in one moment.
Okay, cool.
For those of you who joined us a little bit late and haven't figured it out yet, we're here with Julie Daniluk. She just came out with her book, Hot Detox. It's amazing. We're getting into so much good stuff. We could talk for so long. If you guys have any questions, feel free to post them on the Facebook page. We're gonna, check back now and again. Looks like we have some comments here.
Nice.
I'm just going to see what we have. I actually like to get into coffee, so we have a question from
I love it. Yes.
Pacifica South.
Yes.
Is that your real name? That's cool. If it is, but
yeah.
I'm looking for a coffee replacement for an energy boost without salicylates, since I am sensitive.
Oh, interesting. Well, I do have a great coffee replacement in here, which is dandelion root. Dandelion root, I even give a do-your-own version where you pull them out of the ground, as long as you can find a place that isn't sprayed with pesticides, of course. Wash them up. Slow roast them so we don't have too much carbon there.
Right.
You don't want to blacken them. And then when you grind that up in a coffee grinder and run some water over it, it tastes absolutely delicious. I promise you. Now the only thing is it's not incredibly energizing. If you needed more energy, then the only thing when we're trying to get away from caffeine is relying heavily on the adaptogens. And you're all about the adaptogens. There's so many good ones. So whether we're looking at I'm thinking rose right off the top of my head. I'm thinking if we go with, there's suma, there's the ginseng family. There's so many good ones that we can rely on. I haven't got it memorized whether any of those have salicylates in them, so we have to delve in.
Yeah.
But I do feel so confident that people need that rest from caffeine. And what's interesting in the Hot Detox is I get into thorough detail on how caffeine speeds up phase 1. So I want you to think of your liver like a conveyor belt, and phase 1 is the obviously the 450 enzyme system. People are having too much coffee, too much alcohol, which speeds up phase 1, and poor phase 2 can't keep up. So by taking a break from caffeine as best you can, but I really believe you need to stage off caffeine slowly, because let's face it, some people are serious addicts and they're going to have horrific symptoms if they just go cold turkey.
For sure.
So I'm saying as a gentle way to get through that, you may want to break up slowly with the use of small amounts of raw cacao. Like you have such a delicious elixir. I drink it all the time. So to give him a plug, go get his elixir. It rocks, and has a ton of the adaptogens in there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to remind people what adaptogens you use in there?
Sure. Thanks, Julie.
Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure.
In my elixir, we have 2 types of ginseng.
Nice.
We have maca, we have cordyceps, we have goji berries.
Wow,
and those
great.
are all great adaptogens.
Amazing.
And we have good therapeutic dosages in there too.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I just said rose off the top of my head. Obviously, it's the rhodiola, which is in the rose family,
Right.
which I have a real affinity to, I think, because I'm Ukrainian, and all Russians should be on it because it's very much from that part of the world, along with our Siberian ginseng. So I just love the maca in there. Also gives like a caramel kind of flavor to it. It's just delicious.
Yeah, I've played with rhodiola too, and it's a good one for energy.
Yeah. And one last one, chaga, ridiculously good for energy. And you are a big chaga collector.
Yeah.
That's the other thing that we bond on is a bit of foraging.
Yeah,
You're
for
a big
sure.
mushroom collector, right?
That's chaga right there.
Unbelievable.
Found that
Look
one
at that. It's
a couple
huge.
years ago. Yeah.
So good. It looks like a massive, archaeological find. That's good.
Yeah, coffee's an interesting discussion.
Yes.
I'm Josh Gitalis. I was a coffee addict.
Yeah.
University, I think it got me through university.
Sure.
I wasn't so high up there. I've worked with people that are at 8 to 10 a day.
Terrifying.
I was at 1 to 2, but I was definitely addicted.
Yeah.
I decided to go cold turkey. I was not happy camper for a week and a half in terms of acute symptoms, and then after that, I was really building on my adrenals.
Yeah.
Because I was just exhausted because I had been living off artificial energy for at least 4 years.
So our good friend Dr. Jesse Chappis is right now in this breakup affair. Isn't that funny?
Yeah,
I can't imagine. But I'm so glad that you've got him some wonderful assistance on that.
Oh,
so
for sure.
Definitely check out the Ultimate Health Podcast. If I can give some major love to Ultimate Health Podcast, they're one of my favorite people out there.
Yeah.
Peeps, obviously, Peeps. Because Barney Wiseman's fantastic.
Yeah. Just to review, coffee increases phase 1.
Yes.
And
alcohol.
Yeah, and causes that buildup. And alcohol.
And how many people are having a nightly drink of wine? What I find funny is I actually dug into the data around wine being anti-inflammatory, because everyone's like, Julie, wine's anti-inflammatory.
Yeah.
It's at the top of the pyramid. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, have you looked at the dosage that's anti-inflammatory? It's 2 ounces. 2 ounces. That's anti-inflammatory. Unfortunately, people have half a bottle of wine because they share a bottle with a friend.
Right.
And that's more than the liver can handle.
Yeah.
So it's all in the dosage.
Yeah. And guess what? A lot of it has to do with resveratrol, which can be
grape juice. Anyone?
Gotten in grape juice or in a capsule.
Yes.
If you really need it at a therapeutic dosage.
Yeah.
So.
And the grape skin powder is delicious and can be added to smoothies. Yeah.
And the other thing I think that a lot of people don't realize is in places where wine is an intricate part of their culture, they're not sitting at a desk all day eating crap food and not exercising, right?
Yeah.
They're moving around, they're getting fresh food from their land, they have passion, they have family time. It's talked about in the book, The Blue Zones.
Oh, I love it.
So,
love it.
So they're drinking the wine in the context of so much more.
And they can handle that because they're also balanced with massive they're burning it off, essentially.
For sure.
They're having that glass of wine at night. But also, don't you find in those cultures, wine is such an intricate part of dinner that it doesn't become let's binge drink. There's virtually no binge drinking.
Right.
There's much lower cases of alcoholism in that group.
For sure, and they're coming from a different place. It's not like I just had a tough day at work. I'm coming home. I need my 2 glasses of wine to unwind.
Yeah.
It's like we're having a meal with all these people, and we're having a nice wine to accompany our meal.
Yes, absolutely. So we're not saying wine is bad. It's just wine within context.
Yeah, and that's what happens so much in the nutrition industry, and I'm sure you've seen this, over the years, that people are like black or white.
Yes.
Right? And then these statements are made, and going back to exactly what we're talking about today, that are like these definite statements, and everyone freaks out. Like, detox diets are myths. They're hoaxes. They don't work. Right?
So hard.
And,
I think, can we touch on this for just a sec? I think it's because people are seduced into these ridiculous cabbage diet, lemonade fasting, which spikes your blood sugar and has no additional nutrition you need to run your liver. Where this we talk about, no, we want to give you the nutrition, and sure, we can do intermittent fasting, which is brief rests without food. But when we are eating, we're getting enough of the amino acids, we're getting enough vitamin B, vitamin C, omegas to actually increase the liver detox pathway. So thank you, because we do want to dispel the myth that some of the fake fad diets out there are harmful. If your well is already empty, how are you going into this fasting mode and have it be safe?
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So I really am glad that the hot detox focuses on increasing the nutrients that you need while keeping you soul satisfied, which is so important.
And something I'd like to get into, you mentioned in the book, is doing detoxification or cleanses on a vegan diet versus an omnivorous diet.
Yes.
So can you speak to that?
I would love to. So know that I'm a recovered vegan. Hope that landed well. I just realized how that came out. Yeah. That was my inner voice. What I meant to say is I'm a former vegan, and I only broke being vegan because I needed to put my life jacket on, because I was so... I have a real genetic predisposition to anemia already. My grandmother had it so badly that she actually had to live on massive quantities of liver. So when I went into my 20s, I realized my iron was dipping so low, I was so exhausted, so fragile, and then getting sick in Thailand. That's when my naturopath just shook me and said, listen, we got to get you on some animal foods. So
I'm just going to interrupt you for a second.
Yeah,
is that a connection to the factor 5?
Yes, I
genetic?
think so.
Okay.
I think so. Wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know.
Yeah. That's a hypothesis that I should run down. I should definitely get down that rabbit hole on that. But I want to just speak to how the vegan plan in the book is very delicious, and the only reason why people would want to consider the paleo version instead is if you're having a lot of gas and bloating and IBS or inflammatory bowel disease, in which you would need to eliminate disaccharides at this time. So that's why when you go on the paleo or omnivore version of this, you are eliminating and letting go of a lot of the grain. And that gives your bowel a rest from those disaccharides, which will hopefully help to dramatically reduce bloating, gas, and any sort of irritation of the bowel. So that's why there's two ways to go. The vegan plan is much cheaper. Come on, we're living on some nice grains and some beans and maybe some nuts and seeds as our substance. But the paleo plan is really there for people who have more autoimmune issues or gut issues and need something that is much easier to digest. But saying that, the vegan plan is safer for people who want to avoid toxins that come along with animal proteins, and that's why I'm constantly speaking to, please try to find grass-fed, organic when possible, because animal protein, we are taking in the toxins that animal ate. We are bioaccumulating their toxicity. Right. So I think that there's tremendous benefit both ways. You just have to make a personal choice as you delve into the plan, whether you want to go vegan or if you want to go omnivore.
For sure. And another great example of how one word, paleo, vegan, can mean so many different things, right?
Yeah.
Like, someone can be a vegan and they can eat white sugar and, white flour, and that's veganism. Or they can be having a huge plate of vegetables, legumes, beautiful oils.
Yes.
Or someone can be on paleo and they can be like...
Living on bacon
and terrible sources and
virtually never putting a veggie in their mouth. That's one thing that blows my mind, is how many people I watch, they're just having such excessive amounts of animal protein, forgetting that truly cavemen ate mostly plants because that's what we could get our hands on. And when we could tackle a bison as a tribe and rip off a leg and enjoy a little piece of that animal was like a weekly treat. It wasn't a daily indulgence.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And look at all the books. Yeah. You've written 3 books. you go to like a bookstore and there's like tons on health and everything. The one thing that they all have in common, eat a lot of vegetables.
Yes. 7 to 10 veggies
like
a day is really critically important.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But in this book, what makes it different is I get constant feedback. Julie, I can't digest those veggies. They make me feel terrible. I have bloating, I have gas, I feel icky after I eat them. That's why in this book I show you how to warm them up, how to break them down so that they sit well in your stomach, because that much cellulose combined with the cold, damp produce coming out of the fridge, some people just can't handle it. And I do have some good sciences I know you've dug into, how carotenoids are better absorbed when we break open the cellulose with steaming, and then adding oils to it will increase the absorption of things like lycopene. So there is some benefit to cooking on a real science level. We see that, and I want people to know that if you have digestive problems, never give up, because I know we've seen miraculous healing. I'm sure you get tons of wonderful testimonials. I think I'm up over 1,000 testimonials. When people eat this way and heal their digestive lining, it's this gorgeous cascade, a domino effect where the joint pain, the muscle pain disappears, the mental clarity comes back, and the positivity comes back. How many people are fighting depression, and now we realize it's inflammation of the brain? And that's why I'm on a very high omega-3 diet, because I feel, wow, just that much brighter than I was when I was younger.
For sure, yeah. And the brain is like something we could get into.
Yeah, let's do a whole brain episode.
Let's check in with some of the Facebook comments. We have a couple people, hold on one sec, just loading up here. Candace is asking, are pomegranates available now here in Ontario?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, for sure.
This is the pomegranate season, and of course we can't grow pomegranates in Canada. It's a Mediterranean only fruit. It also grows really well in the Middle East. But they actually think that the apple from Apple and Eve story was a pomegranate, because it makes more sense. Well, because the apple, there's no apples in that part of the world. But pomegranates are beautiful and a real sign of fertility. It kind of looks like an apple. But pomegranates are absolutely available, so please enjoy them. And that's why they're absolutely in the hot detox, because it is such a winter food.
Love it. Power foods, nutrient dense. So what do you do regularly for detoxification? Like, what's your routine look like?
Yeah, because what I really love is you teach people that we need to cleanse all the time. Instead of it being just 2 to 3 weeks a year or twice a year, you're saying let's detox to thrive. So I have an absolute daily ritual of things that help. First thing, let's get the scum out of your mouth with some good tongue scraping. Let's oil pull. And all of these Ayurvedic practices are in here. That was the combination of Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine. Was teaching people that we can cleanse topically by doing skin brushing, and by, obviously my first thing I put in me is warm soup. So I've let go of the frozen cold smoothies, and now I have what we call soupies, which are soup smoothies. It's a hybrid that I've just recently coined, and I love having things like watercress is a beautiful thing to work with.
Oh, that's so powerful.
So powerful, right? Yeah. And cilantro, which detoxes heavy metals.
Yeah.
Throw that in with some lemon juice, some hemp hearts, giving me the amino acids that my liver craves to detoxify. And sipping that through the morning, it just sits so well, my tummy's so happy. And that's why not only do I have the standard detox recipes in the book, but I also couldn't fit everything I wanted to fit in the book. The book was going to be over 500 pages long, so I stuck all the extras into the book bonus page, which is available at hotdetox.com. So we have extra recipes, and we also have a very juicy 5 cooking lessons online to teach you how to make some of the trickier things, because people think it's like so mysterious. They paid $10 for a tiny bit of cashew cheese. I'm like, no, let me show you how to make it. It's so easy. So fermenting and things that are a little bit trickier, we do cooking classes at hotdetox.com.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, so The oil pulling?
Or pulling
Yeah.
is great.
What else
So,
do you do? You
oh
do
gosh.
the broth in the morning?
Broth is
Yeah.
amazing. And then I just want to say there's another great one in here called the ginger recovery drink. So of
Ooh.
course I do yoga,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to have a lot of electrolyte minerals.
Mm-hmm.
I really love the Hot Detox Rocket, which is a wonderful mix of coconut water and beet juice,
Mm-hmm.
which is great to take into the hot sauna. So I know you're really big on infrared saunas too,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And I love that infrared saunas are lower in temperature, so for those who are really sensitive, they're getting that deep sweat without ridiculously high temperatures like a Finnish sauna. And just a nice shout out to Sauna Ray, because they don't use any glue in their saunas. They nail their saunas together from local Ontario wood,
Cool.
which I really appreciate.
That's great, yeah. And you gifted me like a few bottles of that beet juice,
Yeah.
which is super powerful, like to hit up before sauna or
Yeah.
just before a workout.
Yeah, it's
Very high in
great.
betaine, which fuels those detoxification processes.
Yes, and that is actually biota, which is glass-packed, organic, and fermented juice.
Wow.
So it's so
That's
delicious,
really cool.
filled with lactic acid.
Okay, tell me about ferment and what that does
Yeah.
for detoxification.
Well, I just love that fermentation is another way that we can break food down and make it easier to digest, but also give you the good bacteria that your gut is really needing. Because we always talk about probiotics, but instead of having one, maybe 10 different probiotic strains, can we accept that there's over 500? I see reports from 500 to 1,000 strains of bacteria and yeast that live in the human microbiome.
Yeah.
So we really need to put those back in by changing it up. I see how we have.
We're just a low
yeah,
battery.
we're a little low battery because
Yeah.
it's been such a long, juicy talk.
Yeah.
Happy 11/11.
You know what I was? Oh, were you done?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
basically, just increase those ferments. Make sure to vary them. We have kimchi in here. We have beet kvass in here, which is very Slavic. We have lots of sauerkraut, which is, of course, anywhere Eastern European would love their sauerkraut. Enjoy it. Of course, it's providing lots of vitamin C, especially if you're using cabbage as a base. And I just wanted to treat you to a gut shot.
I would love a gut shot.
So
right
we
now.
have a gut shot.
Where do those
It's a
come
perfect
from?
time. Yeah, this is
All
a
right.
ginger beet gut shot. Don't you
hell.
love it? To hell.
Love it.
I love it. Let's
Yeah.
do this.
Whew.
Wow.
That's good stuff.
I feel like we should be licking our hand and jamming back a lemon juice. It's the replacement for tequila right here.
That's awesome, right?
Awesome.
This is counteracting all those years in university.
Exactly right. It's a new shot.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So let's just check in one more time here. We have Pacifica saying, I love the Hot Detox book. Thanks for the shout out.
Yay.
So
so
much
glad
great
you love
information about our bodies and detoxing. Yeah, so, this is, when we're born,
Yes.
we don't get a manual,
No.
right?
No.
We're taught from our parents little tips and stuff to try to take care of our body and not get into trouble. But these are our manuals. This is really what tells us how to run this operating system,
Yes.
which isn't as confusing or difficult as a lot of people might think.
Yes.
You just need to educate yourself a little bit, and once you know, you know.
I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love that you. I can't wait for your book to come out in 2020.
People
right
keep
here.
on
Who
telling me
knows?
that.
2018. Who
Yeah.
knows when you can get to it? You're such an active practitioner.
Yeah.
You're doing the really important work of healing people. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And I gotta set some time aside to do that.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
How I do it is I always hire somebody to hold me accountable. So I check in with them once a week. It used to be my godfather, and he would whip me once a week and say, "Where's my pages?" And I'd have to hand over pages. So without a deadline, you never make it happen.
True.
So
I do not have a deadline.
Exactly. So maybe you just need to write a really good outline because you are who you are. I'm sure a publisher would be attracted to you. Of course, it's a given. And then they'll whip you. So
Okay.
definitely get that. You just need that 2-page outline and picking that new incredible topic. You're so good with autoimmunity and explaining hormones, and I just can't wait to see what comes out of that brain.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, we'll get there one day. You'll interview me.
Yes,
but
I will.
Today, it's about Julie. So, is there anything else you want to sneak in here before we wrap it up?
Yeah, we've talked about traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, but I just want to let you know that to blend those really wonderful 5,000-year-old traditions with the science, know that this is backed with 600 references, and those references are available at hotdetox.com. I've actually provided the links for you to go look at the studies yourself so that you feel confident that this is valid. And my favorite chapter is the liver chapter, explaining in detail how the liver works and shows you all the nutrients you need to have that liver work effectively. So please check that out, and also love up your lymph, your kidneys. I think you're going to love every single science chapter in here, because everyone who's tuning in today, I know how much you love the science.
And you have...
So, big thumbs up.
Awesome. And you have like some wicked diagrams. I love diagrams.
Right? The medical illustrations I like sketched on like rough pieces of paper, scraps, and then I handed them off to a medical illustrator to turn them into beautiful.
I love them.
Beautiful illustrations.
I love this stuff. Yeah, and it helps explain it in like easy terms. There's like boxes on like a conveyor belts and like I love it. Oh, good. We have lots of thumbs up from that. So thank you, and please get your free book bonuses. And I'd love to connect with you. My Instagram and my Twitter and my Facebook really is just Julie Daniluk, and Julie Daniluk Nutrition is my professional Facebook page. Awesome. And if you also like Hot Detox, which just came out, this is still totally relevant. Meals that heal inflammation, get that one too. This is like a staple in my clinic, and I use this with people all the time. I saw it hanging out with your wonderful wife, and I felt very honored. I made top shelf. Something must be right. And just before we sign off, I alluded to it at the beginning, but I think everyone wants to know your story of Loblaws. Oh my goodness, yes, that would be a fun way to go. So I was dressed as my mother, created the most incredible costume, fishy tomato costume. So I had a fish coming out of my head and a tomato coming as a body. And what was cool is, of course, at the time they were trying to create a tomato that could handle living past the frost. Because when you mix fish genes that have antifreeze in them with tomatoes, then you help that tomato withstand frost. And I was so appalled by this that it was just more fuel in my fire. So we were protesting the 6 genetically modified crops at the time, and I was standing at Loblaws and we were protesting, and I kind of got carried away, and I got up on the conveyor belt and just screamed to the whole building. They had to stop eating GMOs, and they didn't even know where they were, but of course it was happening mostly in soya and canola and corn, and they had to get off it. Anyway, so I got dragged off the conveyor belt and told I was strictly reprimanded and told that I had to stay away, and I had to sign an affidavit saying I would not walk into a Loblaws again. So wow,
yeah. So I shop at the Big Carrot and health food stores all around. Well, occasionally I'll sneak into like in the back. Of course, no, I don't think 15 years later they're really counting, but I love the fact that. You do what you got to do. I think everyone does need to stand up and say that GMOs are not out of the can completely, because people get scared that it's everywhere, but there is only 4 active crops grown in Canada right now, and therefore we can deal with that. We can, as long as we don't release wheat or any of the more important crops, like right now it's beets, canola, corn, and soy. Let's keep it to that. Right. And alfalfa. Sorry, we're up to 5. So I just want us to remember that we've got to take a look at genetic modification, not only from a health side, which we now are worried about, but we really want to consider whoever owns our seed owns us, because it's our fuel supply. So why are we giving away our right to save seed? And just on that point alone, we need to stop Monsanto from buying up all the different seed varieties and really keep trading seeds and keep focusing on heritage varieties of plants. Awesome. There you go. And something we didn't get into too much is that it's all about first removing the stuff that makes things worse and then bringing in the good stuff. We talked a lot about the good stuff, but you got to get all that crap out too, like the GMOs. Yes. So that's all in the book. Julie Daniluk,
JulieDaniluk.com, hotdetox.com. Thanks so much
Thank you,
for
Josh.
joining me
This
for
has
this.
been such a fun interview
Yeah.
because it just flows with you.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again
Yes,
for
we
sure.
will. We will.
And thank you all out there so much for joining me for This Week in the Clinic.
Yes.
We're going to be back next week for another episode of This Week in the Clinic with a new topic. Not sure what it is yet. We'll see what happens next week in the clinic. So thank you all for joining us. Give us a thumbs up if you loved it. Give us a heart if you really loved it. Share this with your friends if you think that there's some valuable information. And we always love to hear from you in the comment section as well. Take care. Have a great day. And
Bye-bye.
if you're not detoxing, you're retoxing. All right. Take care.